on, if I listen to something, I probably listen to Sid because I do a lot. But for some reason, suddenly I felt this huge wave of compassion for myself. And what really struck me in that moment is that during all these years, it was 6 years of constant pain. It was the first time that my main feeling towards myself was compassion. And yeah, just compassion and the kind of tenderness that came with it. Like I saw the in all the messiness and chaos and everything I tried to do and find out and do about it, I saw kind of the beauty in it. Like I was just doing the best I can all the time with what I knew to do. And it felt like I just forgave myself for not knowing it better, for not being able to get out of it or figuring it out or whatever. And what was just amazing to me is my pain is in my whole body and my muscles. It feels like a burning pain, or sometimes like somebody is grabbing me too tight, like it feels like tension. And this, when I was in this feeling, it felt so tender. Like there was such a feeling of tenderness going through my body. And I just thought, that's amazing. Like it was just really sweet. And it's not like all the pain went away after that, but actually something changed. And I feel like since that evening, I never again suffered emotionally so much with it. Like I had some flare-ups. I'm doing better all in all, but still. But I didn't get caught up so strongly anymore in judging myself or my life or whatever I want to judge in that moment. So it was quite cool. Yeah, that's what comes up for me with psychological innocence.
Wow. When did that happen?
Somewhere around, I think, shortly before Christmas.
Just
somewhere
so a few months.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
this past Christmas. So I didn't realize it was that recent.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, that's
Yeah, I
what
mean,
really.
I did have moments before where I felt fine and felt in peace, but this was the first time I felt that really the judgments fell away about the whole thing, the whole story, the whole, yeah.
Judgment fell away. You know, you could apply that to emotional pain as well, right? When you
Yeah.
stop judging your emotional pain, you're looking in a different direction. You're not down on yourself. That's beautiful. Yeah. Thanks so much. Chris, welcome. You snuck in. And Chris, for everybody else, is from California. And you've met everybody, I think, Chris, with the exception of Amanda, who's in Long Island. And Samita is in Connecticut. Michael's in Connecticut. And I think you've met everybody else. Yeah. And so we're talking about psychological innocence. These two words that I really have fallen in love with. Because they're so descriptive. The fact, what Pallavi was just talking about, that we do the best we can in every moment. Every human does, believe it or not. Even like really awful things that people do, in that moment, it looks like the right thing to do. And, you know, most people don't know how to pay attention to their wisdom rather than what their psychology is telling them, rather than what their thinking is telling. So most people are paying attention to these thoughts that sometimes are, you know, not in their best interest to pay attention to say the least. You know, and so what we realize, you know, what a gift Sid Banks brought to us, or uncovered. It was always here, but he really uncovered the fact that it's these three principles. And by the way, for the new people, when somebody says the three P's or the P's, they're not referring to peas you eat, they're referring to mind, consciousness, and thought. That those three principles, what else would you call them? They're formless, you can't touch them, but it's the bridge, really. They're creating this bridge from formless energy into the world of form through our capacity to think. And whatever we think looks real in that moment because we're conscious of what we think. That's what makes our reality moment to moment, literally. So, enough of me jabbering. What other insights have you seen? And what is coming into focus for you about psychological innocence? And you'll light up, by the way, if you want to talk, your square will light up. You don't have to, raise your hand. Just unmute yourself and start talking, and we'll find you by the lights. I know some of you have some insights about psychological innocence or anything that you've had an insight about since we met last that opened things up for you. That's the beauty of insights. They really open things up for us. We see
Okay.
Alan.
Okay, I'll start talking.
Great.
So I've told you a version of this a couple of times, that when I met Sid in the late 70s, my experience was absolute safety, absolute hope, warmth, and in line with the topic today, I felt innocent. I felt innocent, and I felt free of the insecurities and that I'd had before that time. There had been other times before that I felt that way, of course. None of these experiences are unique for me, but this was so powerful. And well, what's been occurring to me over the last couple of days is our well went out 3 days ago. So we've been living on gallons of bottled water bought from the store. We've gone through 30 gallons of water in the last 3 days. But the plumber guy came by today and he fixed the well for $200. So we are like running around listening to the toilet tank fill up again, just being so excited. And for me, at 2 a.m. in the morning on these nights, because it's been cold and I've been afraid our pipes are going to freeze and break and stuff, all those worries. So I wake up in the middle of the night and this guy is going 100 miles an hour. His insecure thinking is just cranking and cranking and cranking. And I'm lying there and I'm seeing that, first of all, what's happened is that I've lost faith in the universe to tell me what I need to know when I need to know it. And again, with regards to innocence, I need to do this. I need to go, Alan, it's all right, my friend. And the phrase that came to me was talking to myself, talking to my ego and my personal thinking. And the phrase that came to mind was, you poor little guy. You're doing the best you can. You're just trying to protect yourself. You're trying to avoid pain. And it's okay, little guy. So I've come to a relationship using my personal thinking with my personal thinking, and we'll see where this goes. But anyway, having my well go out has been an interesting experience. And for me, it's about faith. It's always been about faith. When I lose touch with this truth, capital T, it's always because something is causing me to lose faith, my insecure thinking, and so I look for faith again, and faith in the truth of mind to tell me the next common sense thing to do. That's enough.
Oh, that's so great. I love that. Yeah, it's so great. Right? Ah, that's all we have to do is, and you can't press it. There's nothing no reset button to remind ourselves to have faith that things are running the way they run. And yeah, I love that insight that you had. Right? I mean, and hearing the toilet tanks fill up, like, wow, the things we take for granted in life. It puts a new spin on life, doesn't it? When you have those little wake ups, just puts this beautiful spin on, oh man, I forgot that we're fortunate in so many ways. We're so fortunate. And I want to hear more what people have to say about psychological innocence, but you started to talk on something that I had a major insight about, much deeper than ever, about what Sid said in harmonizing our little mind with divine mind. I never saw it quite the way I've seen it recently. And you started to touch on that about, the ego mind. I used to think that that was sinful. Ego, oh, we ought to, in fact, I say things like, cut it out, like we can cut tonsils out, we should cut ego out. But I just got such a in the last couple of weeks about how, man, what a gift ego is, because that's the personal mind. You just want to harmonize it. We can't live on planet Earth just with divine mind. We would be invisible spirits if we could do that. We need to have that personal mind that also tells us when we're going off base and when we have to protect ourselves. Right? Does any of this make sense? I'm kind of veering away from psychological innocence, but when you said what you said at the end, Ellen, it just really triggered that statement from Sid. So speak to either of those, psychological innocence or harmonizing our brain activity or analytic activity with faith in universal intelligence.
Well, I don't know. This is my first time doing anything like this, but in English class, we talk a lot about theory, like examining books through lenses of different types of theory. And one of my friends was talking about psychoanalytical theory and like id, superego, and ego, which I think is what you were talking about. I cannot be sure, but it allows you to like examine characters so specifically that it's like just like another tool that you can have, because I don't really know where I'm going with this, but like if you can use it to like justify the actions of like characters in a book, you can make like someone else's actions like more reasonable and kind of like empathize with them more. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting, huh? Yeah, where does empathy come from? I have a lot more empathy with people when I realize that they're dealing with psychological innocence also. They also have this psychological innocence that when they're messing up or they're, being angry or they're being even mean to somebody, they're innocent because that's the best they can do given how it looks to them in the moment. And when their head clears, they may need some food, or they may need to sleep, get rest. So in order to get their mind clear, or walk in nature, we have talked about that before, whatever they helps them clear their mind, then they're going to have greater access to wisdom. What else?
I was gonna make I know I'm new, but I have like a little bit of, I don't know if anyone has heard of Amy Johnson or any of that. Yeah. So that's like the extent of my knowledge. But like a few things are lighting up between the ego and psychological innocence. If they have a narrator going off and the narrator wants to fit that role, and they're so used to looking in that one direction and listening to that narrator, it only makes sense that they would act, So I guess that comes hand in hand with psychological innocence, because as we keep saying, they're doing the best given their thinking, and they've never known that there's another way to look, and also that kind of ties into what Alan was saying with the blind faith, because you're trying to look to the formless, but how do you look to the formless? I know that's like my blind spot constantly. I get caught up in the stories and then I'm like, all right, turn in the other direction, but where is the other direction? If it's formless. So, or like before the thought, or I think Sydney Banks said, don't get hung up on the words, turn towards the feeling. So it's amazing. It's like almost like this, all the same thing, but like different labels or whatever access point would speak to you.
Yeah.
So that's really cool. I literally just realized that like all of them are very similar, all these topics.
Yeah. Yeah. Because it is all one.
Yeah, exactly.
We have words in order to share our personal experiences. And then, we have our light bulbs go off saying, oh, yeah, I can relate to that. I've had that experience. It is funny. We need words to share that. But going to the formless is going within us, where we see how it plays out, And I think you use the term narrative. I often talk about it as our story, the story we tell ourselves that looks absolutely true. And then we realize, wait a minute, I'm just telling myself that. I made that up. That's not true. That I'm a bad test taker, or I'm a terrible driver, or something or other like that. Yeah, it's fascinating. Yeah. What else comes to mind for the rest of you?
Laurie, I'm a bit confused about what you said about ego.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll tell you my experience.
Yeah, I think it's you said something about that we need ego to protect ourselves, or and I always hear Sid saying you actually really don't need it, and it's like where all your trouble and suffering comes from. And like when he even says it's just a silly little thing, just completely ignore it. It has nothing to do with life. And he, like, there's something where he says the real reason we have a mind is to be silent and still and to observe what is, and it's not like I can be there all the time, but I like the idea that I really don't need my ego to go through life. And so I just wanted to check with you, because I didn't really I feel I didn't really understand what you said before, and it kind of stayed in my head.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you brought that up, because that's how I used to think about ego. Like I said, like it's useless. We don't need it. We don't need tonsils. We can cut our tonsils out. But there is this part of ego that we do need, other than, prehistorically, when we had to protect ourselves running from animals, wild animals, right? But even today, I'm seeing that if I don't use ego as, you know, and it's so much more than self-importance, it's personal thinking. That's how I think of ego, as our personal thinking. It's being done to me. I think that's what Sid referred to. And Alan, you can, you know, I want to hear from you how you heard what Sid had to say. But to me, that's what Sid was saying is it's not about what's being done to us personally. However, if there's a truck coming, it's our, that's how I think of ego. It's our ego that lets us get out of the way.
I would say that's wisdom. That's interesting. I would, yeah, whatever. Like it's the, yeah, the way you talk about it, right? The words. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, funny.
But again, you know, it's not about the words, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
So we do need to live on this planet. We need personal thinking. It's not like it's a bad thing. It's only when we use it against ourselves or against other people, or, you know, we blame other people for our bad feelings. That's when we're not using it in the best way possible. What do the rest of you think? Yeah, just unmute yourself.
Yeah, I'm hitting the wrong buttons over here. We've had some professional learning Friday and today, and there was one about the trauma, you know, response to trauma, because we've all been through so much trauma with the COVID and everything else. And she said something in there that kind of caught me, that it's, which should be common sense, but I like Pallavi was talking about, you know, having that grace to be kind. So when you're thinking about a situation, instead of thinking in the negative, have the grace to think of it, twist it around to the positive. You know, what do you mean you don't get how to write the paragraph? We've been doing this for weeks now. Think from, okay, I know this is hard and these are the steps. Let's just break it down, work through it. And just having that grace to be kind and gentle. And I know you and I have had plenty of conversations about the psychological innocence and how someone else's psychological innocence can really harm us if we let it. And so this, that flipping around, that finding that grace to, okay, yeah, so that is what it is. And, you know, finding your way through. But I like Pallavi, what you said about yourself and how you gave yourself that kindness. If I heard you right. Because I'm trying to find that for me. And it was just, some days you just got to take that time for you. And that's what I'm learning. And I've been trying to do my sit during my lunch just to give my little spot of calm for the day.
Nice. Yeah. Thanks, Karen. Nice. Yeah. Looks like you're going to say something, Pallavi.
Yeah.
No. Yeah, you know, somebody can come out with something out and it might look in the moment like a direct attack on you personally. And then if you step back from that, that would be what I would describe as ego, hearing it as a direct attack on you personally. When you step back from that into that realm of wisdom, of universal intelligence, you could then remember, oh, they're saying what they're saying out of psychological innocence. That's the best they can muster up right now. And that has to do with their state of mind, where they're at in the moment. No judgment, because we all go up and down in states of mind.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I have this client, right? And this person is very cynical and very controlling, and you know, her ego has her by the throat, basically. And it has occurred to me with her that, and she, that the if she could consider this valuable, that what would benefit her the most is to become the consciousness without the memories and the hurts and the insecurities that she was as a baby, or as young as she can get, to find that awareness, that consciousness, and that way of using thinking that she has pretty much um, corrupted with her beliefs over the years. And she has trouble with this because it sounds pretty woo-woo. It sounds pretty woo-woo. But I really think for that person, beginning to see that part of herself that still is there and has been overwhelmed by layers and layers of very powerful, compelling, ego-driven personal thinking over the decades. Hard to let go of that. Hard to see what underlies that. But I know Sid used to say frequently he just didn't want to have anything to do with the ego. And he said in another place that we're filled with such beauty. Each of us has such beauty, and the only thing standing between us and that beauty are our memories. And there you go.
The only thing standing between us is what?
The only thing standing between us and the beauty of who we are and what we are our memories.
Our memories? Is that the word?
Memories. Yeah, memories. We pull them out.
Yeah.
They're there all the time. Alan is this mass of beliefs and memories and insecurities and all kinds of stuff that he has stored in here since he was a little tiny baby. And the closer that he can find that awareness, that consciousness that he was born with, the easier his life will be, and the more joy it will have. It'll be filled with toilet tank filling, joyful feelings all the time. Anyway.
I love that. Yeah. Yeah. It, reminds me of what Sid said about our contaminated thinking. But for the thinking we do that contaminates a good feeling, we would just be living in a good feeling. So it comes down to understanding how we operate this way, like what we're talking about, really helps in the moments of bad feelings. Because when you're in a moment of bad feeling, you can wake up to the fact that, oh, I must be in my personal thinking. That's the only thing that causes us to feel bad. Can everybody agree to that? With that, I mean, I'm not making it up. That's my experience. I'm wondering, is that everybody else's experience, that the only thing that can ever make us feel bad is our own negative thinking?
Yeah, I agree with that. Especially with what I'm going through. I think that's 100% accurate in terms of negative thought and its correlation to,
Breaking up, Ben.
personal. Say that again?
You're breaking up. Can other people hear Michael, or is it just me? Hard to hear. Yeah, hard to hear. Do the best you can. Breaking up. Well,
Let me.
Sometimes if you shut your video off, yeah, you save some of that.
See if I can get Wi-Fi.
I think that's a little.
Give me a second.
Where'd you go?
I'm trying to connect to see if Wi-Fi works where I'm at.
Better.
Yeah, and sometimes the video sucks up your bandwidth. So if you just shut it off while you're trying to present something, that might help.
So hit the stop video button.
You could try it.
Now I can't hear you, Libby. Oh.
I muted myself by accident. So I was saying is I've been in Zoom calls where
Like that.
you freeze, and if you shut off your video, it saves some of your bandwidth. So if you're trying to speak and give this point that you're trying to make, maybe just shut it off temporarily.
Gotcha. Can you hear me now?
Yeah,
Not
it's
really.
better now. Yep.
Much
Better
better.
now? All right. I was just saying how with what I'm going through right now of how negative thoughts is correlated to, the feelings of everyday activities, and just the strong correlation of how you can kind of go about your day and how your day will either be set up for
Can you write?
success or it
Right.
won't be, depending on everybody wants it to be a successful day. Thoughts come into kind of like, that kind of sets up that day. It's almost like my mom, I don't know, my mom gets real bitchy and cranky in the heat and the humidity. And so in the summertime, she'll come home on a Friday, let's just say, and Monday or Tuesday, she knows it's going to be super hot and humidity. And she'll come, if I'm at the house, she'll be bitching saying, I'm going to have such a lousy day on Tuesday because it's going to be so hot and humid. And she's like setting up a negative reaction 4 days in advance because she knows how she reacts to humidity and heat. It's like, but she's already putting that negative energy out there. And then it comes and it bites her. And then Tuesday comes around and it is hot and humid in the summer. And then she's already, acting the way that she already predetermined how she was going to, be, So by putting, these negative, thoughts and emotions into the start of your day when you don't want to, sometimes it just happens. That could probably, there's a strong correlation of how you're going to be feeling, the rest of the day or the rest of the week, because your brain has already started to, think that kind of way, I guess. So.
Yeah. Well, can you see her psychological innocence? That she's actually doing the best she can, how things look to her. They look different to her than they do to you or other people.
Right.
Yeah.
I think other people feel it and see it the same way as I do. I just don't think she even sees it that way, that she doesn't see that she's putting out negative emotions or negative energy, herself. And then she kind of doesn't have the best of weekends because she's already kind of started that week, the weekend off thinking that kind of way, she's like kind of getting herself in a row. She's getting caught in her own way, in a way. So
yeah.
She
doesn't, you said she doesn't even realize it herself. She's
right.
in her experience, which is true for humanity. It was true for me until I learned something about the principles and why I'm experiencing what I'm experiencing. And I think that's true for everybody on the call.
Right.
So, I'd like to hear from the rest of you, but what comes to my mind is that compassion, that, you know, all you can do is have compassion for somebody who doesn't realize that they're creating their own misery. And we had this conversation last week, if you recall, about how, you know, it's so tempting when we learn something for ourselves to try to teach it to people who are suffering. And then they just feel like, well, you feel, what do you think, you have to fix me? I'm not broken. You don't have to fix me. Right. So it's tricky. You know, the best that I have found when you're in the midst of somebody, and believe me, I've been there, and it is challenging at times to just love that person. You see that they're hitting themselves in the head, giving themselves a big headache, and you'd like to take the hammer out of their hands. You'd like to help them settle their brain and their mind down. But the best you can do is just, I think, have love and compassion for what they're going through. And you're right, they don't realize it. That's psychological innocence right there. It's a great example, what you described, Michael, of psychological innocence. She doesn't realize she's hurting herself and bothering other people too in the process. So what do the rest of you think about that?
I think because I'm like only 16 and so are all my friends, like it happens, especially like at my age, where like there's so many insecurities that are built up that like there's no like good possible way to like ever feel good about yourself. And like it happens to practically everyone I know, happens to me as well sometimes, but like and when you're like in that moment, it's like really hard to like show yourself compassion, because like for me, I don't feel like I should, like there's no reason for me to feel like this. Like all like my insecurities are like rooted in, I think Alan was saying this earlier, and things like that happen when you're a lot younger. And like recently what's been happening is like everything from like elementary school and middle school is just like all coming back to me, and like I like remember things that happened that I definitely didn't like, and it just like comes back all at once. And like in those situations, like the only way I like know to like show myself compassion at least is just like listening to music. I do that all the time. Like if my parents are out for walks, I will blast music and sing along as loud as I want to because there's no one else home. And it's and like that's the only thing that works for me.
That's great. I love that. Oh, what do the rest of you think about that? Isn't this beautiful to have this age range? You know, and we're all looking within, or it's not age limited in any way.
No, I love that.
Oh,
Oh,
go
sorry,
ahead.
Libby.
Go ahead. You go first and then I'll go.
Yeah, no, I just love the wisdom in that. Like Hannah kept pointing me to that when I asked her about what do I do when I'm in a really bad mood and I'm really annoyed with something going on, or for me with the pain. And she just kept saying, just do whatever occurs to you, you know, like whatever comes up, whatever makes sense in that moment. And I do that in my car, like putting music on real loud. Like I like to listen to hard rock sometimes and put it on real loud and sing along. And it's just like the simplicity of that, you know, like you know what to do, and it doesn't mean you get super happy from it, but for sure it feels like it does something for you in that moment. And it's, yeah, great. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, and I also was going to say that like at such a young age that just gave us all so much wisdom, so thank you for sharing that. But the idea of blasting music, like that's a great idea, just to get out into the next moment. We're always one moment away from the next moment, or whatever the quote is. Sorry, I didn't do it justice, but music or somebody told me early on is, you know, when you're feeling that, just the fact that you're aware that you're feeling those things, or creates, you know, that helps so much, because you know you're in this, you know, insecure moment, or, you know, unhappy moment, or whatever it is, and then just try to, you know, go to the next 1 minute away from the next moment. And the fact that you're could be aware of, you know, you're in a bad mood, I'm in a bad mood, and if I'm aware of it, I can either not talk to somebody for 10 minutes so that it doesn't escalate, or it doesn't turn into something negative, and just get yourself like out of that mood. But blast the music, sing out loud, I mean, that's all great stuff. And just if you're aware of it and then you do that, then you can hopefully change your mood or your insecurities of that moment. So, but thank you, that was very powerful for you to tell us all, you know, one of your strategies. So I appreciate that.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know, what you were all just describing is what Sid used to talk about. We're always one thought away from a better feeling. We're always one thought away, you know?
That's what I was trying to say, but thank you, Lori, for clearing that up.
I love that. That's so great. Yeah, I love how we piggyback off of each other here.
I was listening to the Long Beach lectures, the Sid on the 3Ps, and it kind of made me laugh. Now, I think some of you are too young to remember when we used to use floppy disks for the computers, but some of you remember. But he said, well, it's really just like taking out the floppy disk where you're grumpy and putting in the one that's joy. And for some reason, that visual really excited my mind. And I've tried it a couple times, like the simplicity, like you said, of changing it. Like, you know, we get so attached to, well, I'm just grumpy, right? But it's like, if it is that simple, you know. And there was another story that kind of came to mind. I go to San Francisco a lot, and we're there this weekend and at a coffee shop, and my back was to some people, but there was a homeless guy that was really upset and really screaming and, you know, carrying on. And he was behind me, so I couldn't really see what was going on, but I heard all the things he was saying. And somebody behind me sort of said, hey, do you want to sit down and, you know, have some coffee? And because he wasn't in my view, it was so interesting to just hear him completely calm down. I heard him talking about his childhood and, wow, I just had this great relationship with my grandpa. I mean, it was as if it was two totally different people, like the range that we can go. And then the kindness of someone just saying, you want to sit down, and, you know, maybe it doesn't always settle somebody down. But yeah, that was really, really interesting to just sort of be able to listen to that whole thing, how we can go and, you know, up and down, and change our thoughts, change our whole state of mind just by settling.
Oh, what a beautiful story. Wow, I love that story.
Yeah.
Just a stranger in the coffee shop invited this?
No, it was all outside, because we're still doing everything outside. Yeah. It was, yeah. So that's why, you know, it was
Oh, wow.
easier to hear. But he was saying some funny things. He said, I'm traveling around Chinatown looking for fertile wombs. Like, he was really funny things. Like, what? Anyway, like, it was all over the board. And then, like I said, it was if it was just friends having coffee. It was really wild to listen to that whole thing.
Yeah. What an experience. Thanks so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just had some thoughts while you guys are talking about this. So I have MS. I don't know if you guys know that or not, but I've had it for 40 years. And I remember after my first couple of experiences where I literally couldn't walk, I would heal. And then one day, I've been skiing since I was 9, so I've been skiing for 65 years. You know, I love skiing, and the idea of having to give up this sport because of this condition was just awful. It was heartbreaking for me. So after 3 months, after I could walk again, I thought, well, I'm going to try to ski again. So I went to the top of the ski lift on a sunny day, and I did a couple of turns, and it was obvious to me that with skiing and the boots and everything, I could still make those turns. And I sat down and I just sobbed and sobbed and sobbed. The level of gratitude that I get from doing certain activities, like skiing, like having to be in the moment, or else you're on your face. You know, having to be in the moment as you ski. Those activities, as long as I can do them, I'll continue to do them, because they're like popping the SID tape in the car to find that space again, or you know, whatever it happens to be, just letting my common sense tell me, Alan, you need a break from yourself, man. You know, you just need a break from yourself. And knowing that the reason that works is because it allows me to be in the present. It allows universal energy to manifest in a more pure form impersonally. That helps a lot. So it isn't like I become addicted to whatever that is to find that space, because I know that there are other ways I can find the space. And the reason I'm doing that, and the reason I enjoy it, is because I find that space doing that.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you for that. And, you know, if any of you don't know, Alan wrote a wonderful book about this called Perfect Misfortune. Check it out on Amazon. Perfect Misfortune. What a great title. Yeah. Thank you so much for that. Wow. We're almost at the end of the hour. Anybody have something, you know, to add or ask, or the next few minutes we have? Is that Michael? Or
No, I'm just thinking. Alan, you said you were from London, or you're from England, or you're in Connecticut?
I live in Oregon, USA.
Oh no, Oregon. Gotcha.
yeah, you weren't here. Pallavi is from Germany. Amanda's from Long Island. Samita's from Connecticut, and everybody else I think is Connecticut. Yeah. Oh, Chris is from California. Yeah. Mark, you have anything you want to add to the conversation before we say goodbye?
Just something that just keeps coming up for me. It's and I wrote it down, was sometimes we forget that we are living a human experience.
We are, say that again, we are?
Sometimes we forget that we are living a human experience. It's not always easy to remember, but I think there's freedom in that, knowing that it's just an experience we're living. And when we realize that it's an experience, okay, so it's our experience that we experience crap shit days. It's our experience that we experience beautiful things, love and joy and happiness, because that's what we're here to do, is to experience these things. And once we can accept the experience of experiencing these things, it makes it easier for us to grow and understand what we're here to learn.
Oh, I love that. That's wonderful. That's right. That's where we're living. We're living an experience. in the, you know, we get to have a human experience every moment, and they're not always wonderful, but you know, there's wonder in the bad experiences too. It's not like, if we don't judge good or bad, then we're just having an experience. Nothing lasts forever.
Well, the only thing is that you can only find something good if you've experienced bad. You can't find it any other way, because you wouldn't know of nothing else to compare it to. So
Right.
that is part of the experience.
Right. Right. And I'll tell you, I've had a lot of life lessons in bad, so-called bad experiences. You look back on it and you say, wow, what a blessing that was. At the time, it was sure like a blessing in disguise, but then you realize down the road a piece that it really helped you understand something or other. Hard to put a finger on what it.
Mark, I have a thought about that idea. So when I first encountered Sid in that room, that experience was right then, it was right now. I wasn't comparing it to anything. It just felt amazing. It felt amazing. And I'm wondering if what you're saying is true, and it has to do with if I compare my current experience to a past experience, then I might see the difference between the good and the bad. But the goodness of that experience with Sid strikes me as a standalone when I was experiencing it. So I was a human being. And I was a human being right then. When I think back, I think, yeah, that makes sense to me. It makes sense because it feels so much better than other experiences I've had. At the time, though, it was a standalone. So I'd be curious about your thoughts.
Yeah, I totally agree, is that if you're living in the moment, then you'll accept the experience. If you're not living in the moment, then you're going to judge it to something else that's happened and compare it. So you can only learn the experience that you're supposed to learn in the moment. But what I do, I would say, and what humans do, is we have the experience, then judge it and place it in a different moment. And that's where the confusion comes in, because we're placing it in a different moment, the thoughts are coming in. And then we're thinking of different things and we're comparing it and this, that, and the other. But as you're living in the moment and you're having that experience, then as you go on in life, you say, you can, I suppose you look back on experiences as you go on in life, if you want to see the good in the experience. If that makes any sense. Okay.
Lori, I'm so sorry I have to go now. I'm sorry, all you guys, actually. This has been so much fun. It's like I said in that little note on Facebook, this has so much of the feel of the meetings we used to have with Sid or after Sid in Eugene. You listen to a tape, you talk about what you see, you throw out your ideas, you can be vulnerable and authentic, and there's no judging going on here. At least I hope there isn't. So please let there not be judging going on. But anyway, so but this has a great feel, and I hope that you guys all find value in it. And yeah, thank you so much. I have a client at 2,
Yeah.
so I
Well,
have to go.
thank you for saying that, Alan.
Yeah, bye-bye.
And thanks for joining us. Yeah.
Such a pleasure. Such a pleasure.
Have a great rest of the week. See you next week.
And now my well works and my toilet tanks are filling up. So I am in bliss.
You're in bliss. Yeah. Wonderful. Something else.
Was that Mark that made that last comment?
Yes.
I didn't have my screen up. Gotcha. So I guess just in response to that is you're talking about the experiences and how, you know, most people or us should look at as experiences of both that are good and bad turn out to be good. And I think that's where gratitude comes in. And you have an unfortunate experience with a lot of things, having gratitude for stuff that's around you or stuff through that specific experience kind of makes it almost seem like you have like a light at the end of the tunnel, you know, at least, you know, going through as a recovery from a breakup in a relationship. And, you know, even before I started to meet with Lori, I was feeling of just, I didn't really have the gratitude, you know, post breakup for the relationship, but it was more now I'm thinking, you know, or thanking God, like, hey, you know, thank you, God, for giving me this awesome, you know, amazing relationship for 3.5 years. And instead of blaming myself or blaming the person or blame the universe, just, you know, being thankful for what I did have while I had it, you know, kind of thing. I think just gratitude, I think, plays a large role into the future holds, you know, in whatever situation that, you know, that may be, you know. So kind of 100% agree with your prior statement there. That was good.
Thank you. I would just like to add just quickly is the beauty is with acceptance comes freedom. So once we learn how to accept, then that's where the freedom's going to come. It ain't going to come any other way. It's because we're not accepting whatever's happening. And I'm not saying it's easy. It sounds like it's an easy thing to accept stuff. We're all, you know, we're living this experience. We're all human, and this is what we're living. But sometimes just that thought, or just that remembering that, you know, if I accept this, I'm going to be at peace, makes some sort of difference. Because peace will come if you allow it. The only person who stops peace is us. You know?
Right.
I love that, Mark. That's great. Yeah, so true. Peace does come. We can only take ourselves away from it. And take ourselves away from peace by, you know, following all the thinking, the thought storms that go through us. Yeah, what a great session this has been. Really appreciate all of you tuning in. And typically I do one on Thursday also, but I have to skip this Thursday. I have another commitment. So we'll be back at the same time next Monday. And, you know, for newcomers, make sure that you send in your the 2 surveys, because then you'll take them again at 6 weeks and you'll see, oh, interesting. My mental health is improved. My what's the other one? Survey on state of mind. My state of mind is improved. So yeah, we all help one another in that regard. All right, and make comments, you know, on the Facebook group, because I know that there was so many more things we could have said about everything people brought up, and yeah, it's been great. All right, so we'll see you Monday. Have a great week.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chloe.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mark. Yeah.
Bye.
And it looks like just me and you, Michael.
Yeah, I have to jump on a what time's our call tomorrow? Was it tomorrow or Wednesday?
Tomorrow, yeah, I've got you down for 3 o'clock.
Gotcha.
Right. I mean, I'm sorry. No. 2 o'clock. 2 o'clock. I got you down. I should be back. I get my first vaccination tomorrow.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So
Excited?
I back in time. Yeah. I'm just looking. Yeah, because that happens at 1 o'clock. in Hartford. So it should be no problem to get back by 2.
Do you know who, which company you're gonna be getting, or do they not tell you yet?
You're really breaking up.
Do they know what shot, do you know what shot? Do you know what getting?
I'm not getting what you're saying because the bandwidth is so bad.
Oh, how about now?
Yeah, right to me.
So, all right,
All right. See you
we'll
tomorrow.
talk. All right, sounds good.
Bye. Thanks
All
for
right, bye.
today. Bye.
Yeah. Bye. No, it was good. Thank you.
You're welcome.